Okay, I finally got that copy of Morbius we were after, Greg. But God forbid they actually invite me to those movie premieres, because I actually tend to critique things every now and then. I mean, yes, it's a Marvel movie. I'm not expecting something as great as what we got with the last Avengers movie, but everyone on the internet says that this is the greatest movie ever. It made like $1 trillion or something. I have no idea if I'm being memed on. Let's find out. I was being memed on. Like, really hard for some reason. Hello, my name is Hunter, the movie reviewing horse, because when it comes to cinema, humans cannot be trusted. And given the context of this movie, neither can bats. I hate bats. Oh, Marvel Studios! Been a while since we checked in on what they've been up to. I haven't actually seen a Marvel movie since Endgame. Oh, wait, in association with Marvel. Oh, no. You don't want to associate with Marvel right now, okay? There's a reason why I haven't seen any of the movies since Endgame. Because ever since that movie came out, and a little bit before, Marvel has been doing everything in their power to be as fucking woke as humanly possible. There is nothing wrong with being woke, but this is excessive. I mean, come on. Safe space? Snowflake? What the fuck? I was reading an article for Eternals and they were like, oh, it's our first deaf superhero. Her deafness is one of her superpowers. What the fuck? No, deafness is not a superpower. It's a physical disability. I have ADHD. I don't market myself as a psychic. Holy goddess, you have changed, Marvel. But apparently WandaVision and No Way Home are very, very good. I mean, people are saying that this is the best Spider-Man movie since forever. But I would actually expect that because Spider-Man is up here with all of the A-list Marvel characters. Everyone else is down here with the fucking C-listers. There is no B-list, there is no in-between. Which brings us to Morbius. Is Morbius on the A-list or is he on the C-list? He's on the fucking C-list. I'm sorry, guys. Morbius is an interesting thing, to say the least. You would actually be forgiven for thinking that this was a good movie since, you know, the internet is all over it being like, movie made $1 trillion, 10 out of 10, 100 out of 10, best movie. It's Morbin time. Audiences have been quoted saying, I felt 1 more billion emotions in the right spots. Whatever the fuck that means. Trailers for this actually started back in January 2020, and I think you can figure out where we go from there. Delay after delay after delay until finally it came out April 1st of this year. Which is funny because this movie is an April Fool's joke. This whole movie is just plagued with terrible effects, mediocre performances, and a storyline that... What the fuck is this story? On top of all that, this is a very ugly movie. I really want to talk about the effects in this movie first, so here we go. This movie is ugly. Like, really, really ugly. They put trails over everything. Anytime he's using his echolocation, which is a lot, by the way, the film... It's like they smear Vaseline over the camera lens. It's just awful to look at. It's on screen right now because I don't know how to describe just how terrible this looks. And it doesn't stop there. The cinematography is some of the most nauseating I have ever seen. That is the word I would use to describe this, is nauseating. The camera itself is doing backflips and acrobatics during the high-intensity moments of this movie, and it's it's really easy to lose track of where our characters reside spatially. And like, for a movie that's trying to be a borderline horror film, it's very poorly shot. There are some parts here that are too dark, some might be a little bit too bright, some are just meh, and the facial effects that they use in this movie are obnoxious. Matt Smith, they just make Matt Smith look really, really ugly, and our main guy doesn't look much better. That's another really good word you could use to describe this movie, is ugly, because it's ugly to look at. But you could see this movie in IMAX, and I cannot imagine how god-awful this movie would look in IMAX. I can't even describe this as some kind of weird artistic expression or different interpretation of cinematography, because it's just bad camera work and cinematography. It's just bad. The performances don't really save it either. Jared Leto is just Jared Leto. Andrea did the best with what she was given. Therese Gibson is here playing the most useless detective cinema has ever seen. And I'm sorry, guys, Matt Smith doesn't save this movie. It's just Matt Smith being Matt Smith. At this point, Matt Smith has played the antagonist so many times, I'm numb to it. Which is a shame, because I like him. That's the painful part about this, too, is that I don't have anything against anyone who was in this movie. Not even really the director, Daniel Espinosa. Maybe we need to look at who actually wrote this. Oh, here we go. Okay, here's where we have the problem. This is from the same two writers that gave us 2016's Gods of Egypt and 2017's Power Rangers. Power Rangers was the last thing they wrote, by the way, so there wasn't anything in between. I suppose this is as good a time as any to ask, why did you write it so that every single character outside of our main cast is the biggest fucking asshole they could possibly be? And sometimes characters in our main cast are assholes for no reason. This is one scene where the guy's talking to Matt Smith, and Matt Smith is like, give me the cure, and he's like, no, get out of my face, instead of being like, no, it turns me into a fucking vampire, I have to fix this first. Supposedly these two are best friends, and they can't just sit down and he can be like, okay, let's sit down, get a cup of coffee, let me explain some shit. I mean, like, if there's one character I figured that our MC could trust, it would be Matt Smith, because I'm not entirely sure that our main character knows what the fuck is going on, and he's kind of scared at the moment. And that's the thing, too. I don't think he has any idea what the fuck is going on. Let's talk about these vampire powers of his. They impossible to keep track of. It seems like every 5 minutes he's pulling out something new. He's like, oh, I could go in the bat room now. I have bat sonar now. And, oh, I can fly now. Which is the silliest thing in this entire movie, by the way. And then at the end of the movie, he's like the very end of the movie during the big fight, he's just like, I can control the bats now. And then he controls the bats. And you're just making shit up as you go on now. Towards the end of the movie, that just starts being incredibly true, especially during the post-credits stuff. There's this one scene where he's like, oh, yeah, I made 2 vials of poison, one for him and one for myself. And then he just never poisons himself, and then his girlfriend dies, and then, for half a second, there's a scene where she opens her eyes for no explained reason. And then, in the most bizarre post-credit scenes, there's like 2 of these. There's one where this one guy, I think he's like a Spider-Man villain, he shows up for no reason. And then there's this other scene with like a bird guy where they're talking about Spider-Man for some reason. And like, it's so bizarre and out of left field. It's like, what? What does Spider-Man have to do with any of this? If Spider-Man does exist, why isn't he here stopping Matt Smith? Supposedly, Morbius is connected to at the very least, the Spider-Man multiverse, according to this post-credit scene, but, like, it's just bizarre. Worst part is, too, like, these two characters that they bring in for these post-credit scenes, I think we're supposed to know who they are, but I don't know who they are. And this just feeds into the nonsensical storytelling that we already had in this movie. In fact, this puts a lid on the nonsensical storytelling. Events seemingly happen out of order. Certain scenes just show up randomly that have no connection to the overall plot. There's this one scene in this movie where the police are storming an apartment. Whose apartment is this? By some miracle, there was one Matt Smith scene that I was able to piece together where he's like, "Do you have any idea where Michael is?" And like he's using his bat sonar to tell that she's lying, and then he's like, "Okay," and then he just doesn't do anything with that information for the next 25 to 30 minutes of film. There's also a bunch of plot points that just never really go anywhere. Like there's one they're constantly reminding us in this movie, the blue blood's working less and less, but it never gets to the point where I feel like they have to worry about it. They're being chased by the cops, but, like, the detective in this movie is always 2 steps behind them. There's a scene where he jumps off a boat in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and then he just turns up in the next scene. It's like, oh, no, I'm totally fine now. I swam. It's nonsensical. Everything is out of order. And by the end of it, there's a bunch of stuff that's just unresolved. And those previously mentioned post-credit scenes don't do anything to help. Because the post-credit scenes are just like, yeah, by the way, Spider-Man, Morbid Time Part 2. Please do not make Morbid Time Part 2. Frankly, I don't know how you got approval for the script for Morbid Time Part 1. I don't care how funny the memes are, or if you got the entire movie off of Discord. Because, like, I mean, they did the same thing to Shrek. Like, literally, who cares? That's how you get it to meme. You get the whole movie on Discord. And I guarantee, if you watch it on Discord, you're not going to have a single clue what's going on, because this movie is way too dark and it's constantly in your face, and just the video compression on there, it's just going to be this blurry, stupid mess. Like, oh, wow. Okay, like, no joke. I'm getting choked up thinking about it. Just, remember those effects where they smear Vaseline over the camera lens? Oh, God. Imagine that in, like, 240p, maybe even lower. I can't believe this is how a lot of people are actually watching this movie. And the rest isn't much better. Do you think I'm skipping you? No. I'm dead serious here. This is all there is to see. The only way I can actually find some good here is if I compare it to my least favorite theatrical release this year, Moonfall. Please note, I did say theatrical release. That god-awful Titanic movie doesn't count. If I compare this movie to Moonfall, at the very least, I can say, towards the end of the film, it does at least stay on theme. Because Moonfall just devolves into this god-awful chase scene, but with Morbius, at least they, like, stay consistent with the theming. It's like, oh, I'm dark and brooding, also bats. Because he can control bats now. Moonfall is really becoming the punching bag this year, isn't it? But you know what? At the end of the day, this movie still did kind of come out on top. You know, because it actually made its money back, unfortunately. There really isn't that much to say about this movie, at least compared to everything else that's come out this year. There's nothing, like, really small that's wrong with this movie that I have to nitpick about. It just has these huge, glaring problems that drag the entire movie down. My final verdict on it... I'm gonna give this a 4.2. Still ever so slightly better than Moonfall, but that's really only because Moonfall pissed me off on a scientific level. That's not to say that this movie doesn't have science, because it has a ton of science, but it's like medical science, and it's like superhero science. You can make shit up in this realm. You want to use super soldier serum to make Captain America? Done. I'm on board. You want to fuse yourself with bat DNA to cure your mysterious disease, and that has weird side effects? Yeah, sure. I'm right there with you. That wasn't a problem for me. What was a problem for me was the nonsensical story of it all. The terrible, terrible effects. How god-awful ugly this movie was. This was an ugly one. Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker and its blue hue of doom, it looks like a fucking joke compared to how ugly this movie is. Like, they weren't even trying. I know that visuals aren't everything, but this one was particularly bad. And if I have to sit here for an hour and a half, the least you can do is try to make it so that my eyeballs don't bleed. The story is garbage, the performances are mediocre, and Jared Leto has now brought us the worst Marvel movie and the worst DC movie. Remember? He was in Suicide Squad. Coincidence? Probably not. But with any luck, the producers will have some decency and be like, you know what? Maybe we don't need to make that sequel after all. Let's just leave it here and embrace the memes. Do not see this movie. You will be sad if you see this movie. This is, without a doubt, the worst Marvel movie they have ever released. This shit is worse than Eternals. I said it before, and I'll say it again. This movie is an April Fool's joke. Which may or may not be why people are memeing out so hard about this movie. I cannot for the life of me figure out why, but that may very well be the reason. And I think we all need to keep an eye on Jared Leto in any superhero movie from now on. Because between this and 2016 Suicide Squad, his track record is shoddy to say the least. My name is Hunter, and this has been a Hunter Review. Okay, you can leave now. Morbin time is over. There, I said it. I said the thing. Hey, thanks for watching Hunter Reviews, guys. Hunter Reviews 2022. This is the year where we're getting one review a month, which is still more than what we usually get. And speaking of me, did you know that I'm a VTuber now? Yeah, every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch me playing games, or sometimes working on these videos, or anything else I do. Here's a little sneak peek on what you're missing out on. Gonna have a piss problem now? Oh, that is not gonna be a piss problem. I'll show you a goddamn piss problem. Now that's a piss problem. Check this out. You can find the link to the full VOD from that stream and many more down in the playlist below. Alternatively, you can also check out Mystery VTube Theater 3000, the new monthly thing that we're doing that's taking the channel by storm. It's literally just Mystery Science Theater, but with VTubers, and it is amazing. I'm having a ton of fun making that show. As always, special thanks to all of our patrons, Dark Blue Fire, the FOE3, Gavin Domenico, Saxy1, Tribal Typhoon, and Julian Gushway. Patreon link is down there as well if you are so inclined. If not, your continued viewership is always welcome. We truly appreciate how much you guys have been supporting the channel, especially in these slow times, even though we're getting one review out every month. Go watch Dungeons and Dorkheads, and hopefully, I'll see you guys next month.
There once was a guy who created a machine, a thing that would take people to and from some other world. And when he arrived, he had run into a pony who smiled and decided that they both should go see a film. When that movie sucked, they decided to join forces, and then they created a new show called Hunter Reviews.